to today's daily wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. Hope you're having a wonderful start to your day or had a great day today. So we'll continue on our journey of science and spirituality. I think it will probably take today's session and tomorrow's session to wrap up this fascinating discussion that we've been having. So look forward to another engaging session. Let me pull up my screen. We'll get started by invoking the blessings of God and Guru. So give me a sec. Let me share my screen and we will get underway. All right. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Now you are, right. Great. So let's get started. We have a hard stop at 10, so we will pace it accordingly. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. All right. So Radha, good morning, good evening to all of you. So let's get started. So we've been doing this discussion, and initially I picked up a shloka where Lord Krishna is talking about all the 5 elements and plus 3, mind, ego, and intellect are his energies only. And that might have given Mr. Einstein a eureka moment, because the unified field theory is essentially trying to string together a theory or a formula which can tie all energies into one. Okay, so they might be able to get to that stage, but Lord Krishna had spoken that he's the cause of all causes and pretty much everything is an energy. And Einstein did prove it through his formula is equal to mc square. So to some extent, it was established. But now we are picking up the other aspect of it. Why is there, science and spirituality are at loggerheads? Is it really so? And what is the position of both of these knowledges in grand scheme of things, right? What do our scriptures have to say about this concept? So let's talk about it. We'll continue with our discussion with that. So I'll recite the shloka. You're welcome to follow along. We'll probably pick up 5 or 6 hands because we have to pace it, given the fact that we have a hard stop today. So let me get started. You're welcome to follow along. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Idam Shariram Kaunteya Kshetramityabhidhiyate Etadyo veti tam prahu kshetragya iti tadvidah. All right, who do we have the pleasure of inviting first? Let's reference Radhe Shyamji.
Radhe Radhe. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Idam Shariram Kaunteya Kshetramityabhidhiyate Etadyo veti tam prahu Kshetragna iti tadvidah. Radhe Radhe.
Very nice, Sam. You did it like Shatabdi Express, like you always do. Very nice. Okay, let's pick up a few more hands. Let's give preference to folks who have done videos.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Idam Shariram Kaunteya Kshetram Ityabhidhiyate Etadyo Veti Tam Prahu Kshetragya iti tadvidah.
Very nice, Sandhya. Radhe Radhe. Okay, maybe one more hand on this one.
Rahul bhai, Radhe Radhe. Radhe Radhe.
Shri
Bhagavan Uvacha Idam Shariram Kaunteya Kshetram iti abhidhiyate Etadyo veti ta prahu Kshetragya iti tadvidah. Radhe Radhe.
Very nice, Rahul. Radhe Radhe. So we'll do, and we have one more shloka, so remaining hands we can take for that one. So in this one, at Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Supreme Lord is saying, he's saying, "Oh Arjun, this body is termed as Kshetra, the field of activities, And the one who knows this body is called Kshetragna, the knower of the field. So he's calling out a clear distinction between the field of activities and the knower of the field. And then he says, by the sages who discern the truth about both. Okay, let's move on to the next one, these two, and then you can recite this one as well. Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi sarvakshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetragyor jnanam yattad jnanam matam mama. Okay, we can pick up the remaining three hands for this one.
Uday Kumar ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Yeah. Kshetragnam chapi mam vidhi sarvakshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetragnyor jnanam yat taj jnanam matam mama. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, very nice, thank you, Taji. Okay.
Golab ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe everyone. Radhe Radhe. Kshetragya chapi ma vidyadhi sarva kshetreshu bharato kshetra yoga jonam yana janam matam mama.
Thank you, Golab ji. Radhe Radhe. Okay, we have two more.
Keshav ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Keshav ji.
Radhe Radhe. Kshetragyam japi mam vidhi sarvkshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetragya jnanam yattat jnanam matam mama.
Very nice.
Radhe Radhe.
Thank you, Keshav ji. Radhe Radhe. Good to see you back, Preeti ji. Radhe Radhe. Welcome back.
Yeah. Radhe Radhe Nitin ji, Radhe Radhe everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi sarvakshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetrajnayor jnanam yattat jnanam matam mama.
Very
Radhe Radhe.
nice. Thank you, Preeti ji, and welcome back to the sessions. Hope to have you regularly at the sessions.
Radhe Radhe everyone.
Radhe Radhe. Ashwini.
Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi sarvakshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetrajnayor jnanam yattat jnanam matam mama.
Very
Radhe
nice.
Radhe.
Ashwini. Radhe Radhe. Last but not the least, Aparna ji.
Radhe Radhe. Kshetrajyam chapi mam vidhi sarvakshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetrajnayor jnanam yattas jnanam matam mama. Thank you.
Very nice, Aparna ji, and welcome back. Hope everything is fine at your end now. We can connect more. So let's get started. In this one, Lord is saying that, O Scion of Bharat, I am also the knower of all the individual fields of activity. The understanding of the body as the field of activities and the soul and God as the knowers of the field, this I hold to be true knowledge. Okay, so let's get started on this one. This is what we are going to talk about today. Science and spirituality is what we've been talking about. We'll continue this. So one of the questions that comes up is the Chinese whisper, right? We spoke about the descending versus ascending knowledge. And then, of course, the question rises in our mind, what if things got lost in translation? Or somebody started adding their own interpretation to a lot of stuff? What if the message itself is diluted? How do we trust scriptures? How do I know this is bona fide knowledge? Of course, these questions would come, right? And then our material intellect anyway goes with an understanding that once something is written, how is it preserved? How did it get passed away, right? So all these questions do come up. So we'll try some simple filter test to that. and talk about that. So let's do a quick recap and talk about this concept as well. Yeah. So we spoke about, this is the body, right? We know that this is not who we really are. It is a rental we get for a temporary amount of time in every life. So this is our body. Then we have the soul, the soul. As you see a heart near the region of heart, that is the soul. Okay. And then the color on the soul, if you look at it, there is something else in the soul as well, which energizes the soul, which is the super soul or the Paramatma aspect of it. And this particular shloka is saying that understanding the distinction between the self, so there are three entities if you look at it here, right? There's a self, who we really are. Then there's a Supreme Lord who's energizing our soul, who's the soul of our soul. And that is why it is called super soul. Okay. And then the body. And the distinction amongst these is called true knowledge. Now, in this particular context, if you look at it, people who have PhDs or even DLITs, they may consider themselves to be erudite, but if they don't understand this distinction, what Lord Krishna is saying, they are not really knowledgeable. So this is the real knowledge, okay, based on the shloka. And the soul is only the knower. If you look at the soul, we are part of the divine. We are his Tatastha Shakti. And so we are not Satchit Anand. We are Anusat, Anuchit, and Anu Anand. Okay, Anu means small. We are Maya Dhin, he is Maya Dhish. He is Vibhusat, Vibhuchit, Vibhu Anand. We are Anusat, Anuchit, Anu Anand. And because we are Anu, our knowledge is restricted to our individual field and its own around our body, right? It's not perfect knowledge even for that. And our context is always limited, right? So the things related to our body or around it, and that is what we know to some extent, not more than that. However, in context of God, he's knower of the fields of all the souls, situated as the supreme soul in the heart of all living beings. And God's knowledge of each kshetra is perfect and complete. It is not partial. Okay, so that is the difference. So all three are different. One is a gross body made up of Panchamahabhut, which is insentient. By virtue of having the soul, it becomes sentient. And soul, by virtue of having super soul in it, becomes sentient. The super soul is all-knowing. It knows about the fields of all the souls around the world. We only have a restricted or a limited knowledge. So all three are different. Okay. And when we understand that, this science to understand about the kshetra, the field of activities, when we try to understand that, that is the material science. And when we try to understand the knower of the field, the witness consciousness, right? One of the tools we talk on the Marga Bhakti, where you can see yourself, observe yourself. You can see, this is happening to your body. It is hurting. You can read your mind. You can even read your intellect, that my buddhi or my intellect is giving this decision. That witness consciousness is the knower of the field. That is the soul. How has it become the knower of the field? Because that is giving the energy to the soul itself. So there's a distinction between the field of activities, the knower of the field, and the super soul. And when we try to learn about the knower of the field and the super soul, that is the spiritual science. Okay. When we study about the field of activities around, that is material science. And that is the distinction. So both are bona fide sciences and have their own place, is what we are going to talk about as well. So this is the seesaw, right? Where spirituality and science, there's always a debatable topic, right? In a lot of circles where they say spirituality is blind faith, hocus pocus, who knows, past life, future life, mumbo jumbo, God, soul, and all that stuff. We are just a bunch of chemicals, and consciousness is just a chemical reaction as a matter of, so many chemicals in our body and all that stuff, right? Scientists would have us believe. And then they say the science is quantifiable procedures, verifiable fact, and logical arguments. In our previous discussions, we actually very systematically got to the point that both requires a leap of faith. And in fact, a scientist has to take a bigger leap of faith than a spiritualist would. It's a much bigger leap of faith. Okay. And both require faith. One is on the knowledge, that ascending knowledge that we spoke about, which is like the more the frontiers of knowledge are broken, the more you understand. And mostly science relies on pratyaksh praman, direct evidence, something which is directly perceptible to us, which we also saw is very, very limited and on a shaky foundation because our senses are imperfect. You cannot directly perceive a lot of things. You cannot hear ultrasonic sounds, ultrasonic sounds, radio waves. Even our sight can deceive us, right? Law of refraction. If you put your stick inside a water, it will look twisted because this is how the light bends, but actually it is not twisted. So our senses, things that we rely on from a direct perception, are not perfect, and science typically relies on that right now. So better than that, we said, was the induction or the anuman praman, where you deduce logically, right? Because you are there, that means your father is there, that means your grandfather and great grandfather and his father, everybody existed. You have logically derived it, although you have not seen your great great grandfather. So there's a reason for you to believe that, right? So it's better than pratyaksh praman, but still not perfect. Why? Because you may see smoke rising out of somewhere and you may think something is burning, but it could actually be mist if you see it from a distance. So even deductions could be wrong, but it is better than anuman praman. And then the highest one is a shruti praman, is what are scriptures, which is also called shabd praman. It is a verbal testimony coming in from bona fide sources. These are not people like you and I, they are realized saints, and it's an oral tradition which travels from one ear to another. They listen to it once, just get everything and provide to the next disciple, and that's how the chain is maintained. And scriptures are typically, that is how they keep on getting passed from generation to generation. For that matter, Ved Vyas, who's the author of, or the compiler, not the author, I should say, the compiler, Ved Vyas, of all the Vedas, he's Chiranjeevi, he's still alive, and he's the one who has written Mahabharat, Mahabhagavad Puran, and pretty much compiled all the Vedas as well. Okay. And he resides in Badrikashram. Okay. He doesn't meet anybody just like that unless you are Shankaracharya ji and going there for a good reason, then he will. But other than that, it's a futile exercise to go and meet him. Okay. So Upanishads, all that stuff. So this is called Shruti Praman, which descends in an oral tradition. Now let's look at this. There are two ways to acquire knowledge. We spoke about these processes, ascending. As you break the more frontiers of knowledge, you gain more understanding. Your truth keeps on getting fine-tuned, right? And Einstein said that the more I learn, the more I realize how much I don't know, right? That's the thing. And older theories, they keep on getting substituted or replaced by newer theories, but that is the basis of modern science. Atoms are indivisible today, tomorrow they may become divisible, then it becomes, particle wave theory may come, and then they say everything is a bundle of energy, and then the quantum mechanics, and that can continue. Euclidean geometry gets replaced by Riemann, and those postulates, they get refined, and then they become the basis of the modern theories. So it's a theory is proposed, hypothesis, then you verify, when you observe, certain observations are made, and then you conclude. That is how science works. And it is no different in spirituality as well. The only difference being it is a descending knowledge, which is once said, always is maintained. Okay, there are no revisions to that text. Okay, and they are time-tested universal principles, and it is a perfect knowledge. Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam, world is a veritable form of God, is what our scriptures has said, and all the things that are maintained in our scriptures or called out on our scriptures are maintained over time. They don't undergo revisions. And we said it's similar to a cooked rice, where you taste a part of it, and if it is cooked, you can safely assume the rest of it is cooked as well. You don't go and check each grain of rice. Okay. Okay, we have still not addressed the question, so we'll get to that. Okay, so just hang on. So Vedic perspective says that there is no contradiction between science and spirituality, contrary to popular belief. There is absolutely no contradiction. Okay. It says Dve Vidya. That means Mundaka Upanishad states both are, there are two branches of science. One is called material science. Other one is called spiritual science. Okay. Now both are bona fide and valid. One is Aparavidya, other is called, which is the study of the laws, and the other one is called Paravidya, which is the study of the lawmaker. So we have laws, that is something we study in Aparavidya, material science, law of thermodynamics, law of gravity, law of motion, law of optics. And then we talk about spirituality, the one who's a lawmaker, who made these laws. That is the science of spirituality that we do. In material science, we study the field activity, basically, the field of activities, which Kshetra and Kshetragya, God is talking about. In spirituality, we study about the knower of that field. Who is the knower of that field? Who is the observer? Who is I? That is the basic question, right? That's how Bhagavad Gita starts as well. So that is what spirituality talks about, to get reintroduced to our own selves. Who are we? We are not this body, we are not this mind, we are not this intellect, we are not a result of certain chemical reactions alone in our body, which you can decompose to a few hundred rupees. That is what our body is made up of, but that is not I. So this is what our scriptures have to say about both branches of science, right? We spoke about that, Buddha's example. Buddha, when he was on the search of truth and enlightenment, he started depriving himself of food, and he became so weak. And then one day, when he was sitting under a tree, there were some village women who were passing by, and they said something which was, which were profound words of wisdom that fell into his ear. So that ladies were saying that they were carrying a tanpura, and they say that don't tighten the string so much that they snap, nor leave it so loose that the right note or chord will not come out. So Buddha said, wow, that means we need to not only take care of this body, we just have to maintain it. And that is where material science comes in and helps us. How do we take care of this body? Because this body is a vehicle given to us by God to go from point A to point B. You cannot say that I'm going to only take spiritual food and not the material food. Even the big saints who come to this world, they also eat food. They also need pen and paper, right? That are material objects only. And they also indulge in doing yogic exercising and stuff to take care of this material body, because if we don't do that, then it will not serve the purpose. So material science is important, and at the same time spiritual science is important as well, which we will talk more about. So synthesis of both is necessary for making our life a success. We cannot say one is important, other is not, or you can pick one and neglect the other completely. Both are equally important, and both are bona fide sciences, branches of science. Now, triple filter test. Now, how do this question of Chinese whisper? Let's talk about this now. What is a Chinese whisper? Now, it's more like a translation loss that happens, right? Somebody said, okay, you know what? This boy is missing. And then next person will say, you know what? That boy is missing, and I saw that person with a girl. The third will say, you know what? That boy is missing, I saw with a girl. I think they ran away. I saw them running away as well. And the fourth will say, you know what? And that you get a ghee, and then somebody will end up making a khichdi out of it. So that is how this whisper travels. But that is with humans, okay? With sages, typically that's not the case. But then what is the filter test we can apply to it? By the way, I'll tell you a story also. See, this borderlines into this whisper can borderline into gossiping and adding your own translations to it as well, right? Which is very dangerous proposition. Once there was a king who did a bhoj. Bhoj means he said, I'm going to feed a lot of Brahmins because you accrue a lot of punyas when you do that. So as the luck would have it, when they were cooking the bhoj, what happened? There was an eagle flying on top of that, and which was carrying a snake as its prey, and it dropped it into the bhoj. Okay, so because snake is poisonous, the venom spread into the entire bhoj, and the Brahmins who ate that, they died. Now, when the Brahmins died, it's a huge thing, right? It's kind of a sin. So Chitragupt or Yamaraj, when he had to take note, now who should we accord this sin to? Should he accord it to the king, who did it, but his intention was not to kill somebody? Should he accord it to the eagle who dropped the snake? Of course not. It's a bhogyoni, and it did do it on the purpose. Should it accord it to the snake? Now, how can it? It's an occupational hazard for a snake to be poisonous, right? He doesn't choose that. So then what happened? So the Brahmins were coming and, they said, okay, everybody was thronging to that bhoj because they came to know free food is available, right? Everybody loves free food. So they were going there, and on the way, there was an old woman. So they said, is the food, we have heard the king is serving food. Are we come to the right place? She said, yeah, but the king is poisoning Brahmins. Okay, this is what the lady said. So Chinese whispered, traveled, okay, to that lady, and lady said that word. And then the Yamdut, or Chitragupt, who keeps record of all accounts, he accorded that sin to that lady because there was no rightful heir for that sin. So that is where, when we talk and we are putting our vested interest or maybe a gossip, it's a very dangerous proposition to be in. If you are right, and let's say you are saying something truth, even though you said something bad about somebody and it's a truth, still you get 50% of that. But if you're not true and it's a complete bluff, because of your mind, you get 100% of it. Okay, so refrain from Chinese whispering and gossiping. Okay, it's very important to do that. Now, what is a triple filter test? Let's look at that. So you see this filter. I hope you like this filter. That is how we drink water these days, right? 3 filters. So the first filter is coming in from scriptural reference. Now, if somebody comes and sits and talks about stuff, this, that, and, I feel that way and this, that, which is good. It may be music to ears, but unless it is backed with scriptural references, then there is always a question mark. Okay, by the way, where is it coming from? Right? It's important to establish it from the authority of our scriptures. That is very important. Should be able to cite examples. So that is why it said that for a guru, it's important for a guru to be not only Brahmanist, which is a realized saint, but also Shrotriya. Because if they cannot quote it from scriptures, that means we might be capping ourselves with their intellectual capacity. Right? There are a lot of good orators. People have a gift of gab. If they speak, but it is not backed with scriptural references, still that knowledge, there could be a question mark on that knowledge. So first is there has to be a scriptural reference to whatever is being spoken about, okay, with regards to spirituality. That's the first test. The second one is stated by multiple saints. Now, multiple saints should have said that. It's not like one saint has said it, the other has negated the existence of God, the third said no. God's, he doesn't look blue actually, he looks actually completely a different color. Nothing, multiple saints should say the same thing when it comes to spiritual principles. Okay. Now, at the surface, they may vary on Dvait, Advait and all that, but they are deeper parts. But in general, speaking about God and the principles related to the spirituality, right? Developing love for God, or giving up the fruits of your actions, or absorbing your mind in God, or benefiting from chanting, or doing kirtan, or acquiring knowledge, gyan, tap. These principles should have been reiterated by multiple saints. Okay, and you would see a running theme in them. That is the second filter you can apply. Did multiple saints say that, or just one person, one off, came in and said that? And the third filter is your guru is reiterating the same. Okay, it should be in accordance with both. Typically, if you go with these 3, then fourth one, of course, is the book. You can rely on it as a bona fide knowledge. Okay, these 3 filters are good enough. However, I'll tell you a fourth one as well. That's not a filter, which is very important. But if you come across a knowledge and there is a scriptural backing to it, you go to that, and then it's not something your guru only is saying. Multiple saints have said the same thing. You go to Ramayana, you go to Mahabharata, you go to Ravidas, Tulsidas, Kabir Das, Guru Nanak Dev. If everybody is saying, there's a good reason to believe, it's coming in from a bona fide knowledge. Not everybody would have lost it, right? There's a reason they would be telling the same, right? If they've even gone to the extent of describing God, and multiple saints in different era who did not communicate with each other, they're saying the same thing. Why would they say the same thing, right? It's a good reason for us to believe. It's an intelligent faith. Okay. And if your guru is saying that, but I would say, okay, you take it with a pinch of salt to begin with. Might take your time for you to grow into that concept, which is perfectly acceptable. Let's talk about the bigger one. Okay. Let's see all these 3 things. You have applied those 3 filters. Now, proof is in the pudding, right? I hope you like this pudding. So the proof is in the pudding. And what is the proof? It's a very important question. So you have learned the recipe. Somebody has told you, go there, mix this, mix that. This is how you make a pudding. All that is good. It's music to ears. It makes sense logically. It kind of seems, all right, this person or this thing is making sense. but it is still not there because it's still not backed with realization. See, realization is the biggest teacher. Once you realize something, you don't even need knowledge. Now, if you let's say you need to go to a doctor, and you have two choices. On one side, you have somebody who's a gold medalist from Harvard, solid academic background, graduated from Harvard, and he's a gold medalist. Okay, and people go gaga over his academic credentials. So that is one person there. And then on the other hand, you have a person who has 20 years of experience. Which one would you go for? Anybody? Okay, let me ask it the other way. Who would go for the Harvard graduate, the gold medalist?
Sam ji, Radhe Radhe. Sam ji is saying she
Radhe
will go
Radhe.
with.
What is that?
Sam ji is saying she will go with gold medalist, not the experience.
Gold
Sam
I
ji?
did not say that.
Acha, please go
I'll
ahead.
go with 20 years experienced person.
Okay, fair enough. Preeti ji wants to say something as well. Yes, Preeti ji.
Yes, I would also go with the 20 years one.
20-year experience guy, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that makes a perfect sense actually. Yeah, right. Why we'll go with experience? Because we know this person, because experience is a bigger teacher than the theoretical knowledge, right? So typically, experience, and where does the experience come from? It's a realization, right? So realization is the biggest teacher, and that we need to, once we have realized something, then we don't need any other proof, right, around that thing. So that is why I'm saying the proof is in the pudding. Now, Narad Bhakti Darshan says that bhakti, or the path of devotion, it is like a salt in the food. You don't need proof of salt. You just know, is it more, is it just appropriate, or is it less, right? You'll automatically come to know. That is how evident. You don't need anybody's testimonial on that. Your experience would tell you, and it is no different. The biggest is you take that. Now, spiritual knowledge is transformative. You hear that is fine. It makes sense, fine. Even if you're 80% sure about it, still you need to, next step is you need to basically practice it yourself. Pick up a principle. If scriptures say remember God, and you will see your consciousness changing or purifying, just do it for 2 weeks. If you don't see anything, reject it. If it says start riding the two extremes that you feel, when you get euphoric or getting depressed, try to get to the equanimity. Experience it, what happens. Give the fruit of your results to God. Try imbibing that consciousness. If it doesn't work for you, reject it. Introduce a pause between your reaction and the stimuli. Learn the ability to respond. Doesn't work, reject. So these principles is something you just need to try it yourself. When you do that, the ray of light will start getting into your intellect. You can experience that, that illumination that happens because ignorance is getting running away. Your mind is getting purified, and you start experiencing that joy, bliss, peace, clarity, lack of anxiety, and all that stuff. So these are some of the yardsticks you can, when you start aligning to some of the principles that make sense to you. And soon you will get, something like this. You see this? Update, right? And now the choice is yours. You want to remain a zebra or get an update? You will get an update. Okay, your mind will start acquiring more divine virtues, and not ordinary striped. You will be like operating at a different level altogether. And that is what God promises as well. He said over time you will start becoming, basically he's going to give you an upgrade, gradual upgrade you will start getting until you become completely divine. And that is essentially the process of God realization, right? So we don't need to stay at the level of that striped zebra only. We need to look at getting an upgrade, and the upgrade you can get only when you start aligning to these principles. And if that doesn't help, reject it. Like science, you do that. There's an hypothesis you believe in, then you make some observations by implementing it, and then you draw a conclusion, it works or it doesn't work. And then you'll say, I've never experienced something like this before in my life. So that is the biggest proof of it. So this triple filter test, hopefully that sheds some light on this topic. Apply these 3 filters, and then most importantly, start practicing it and see where it takes you. And that itself will give you a proof that you're on the right path. This is typically how this process goes. Now, this is more intelligent faith as opposed to a faith of a scientist who has a very limited understanding, maybe a grain of sand in the entire sea beach, and he's extrapolating that argument to say there's no God, nothing exists, this and that. Absolutely no basis of that argument at all. Such a big leap of faith with very shaky foundation. Absolutely no grounds to say that assertively with a very limited amount of knowledge. Because even if there's one thing that scientist doesn't know, that could be God. And we don't even have the ability to know about our own self. Forget about knowing about the world, in galaxy, universe, and other universes out there, right? How vast this creation is. Okay. So tomorrow we will put it all together, because we have been talking a lot of stuff on this topic. So we will put it all together. This is what we are going to discuss tomorrow. But for today, any questions on what we have discussed so far? On descending knowledge, ascending knowledge, proof is in the pudding, the triple filter test, or anything else? I'll open it up if anybody has any question around this topic.
Yeah, Radhe.
Sam ji had raised hand. Sam, you can just hold off, but I see a few hands. While you ask questions, I want to pull up something else on the screen as well, but please go ahead while I'm searching for it. Any questions or remarks on that?
Sandhya, Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe. So thank you. Couple of things. So first of all, regarding this triple filter test, is there a hierarchy or is there an importance of one filter over the other? So from my perspective, if one has accepted a guru, then I feel other filters become kind of meaningless and you can just go by.
See, that is only for the skepticals, right? Like in Bhagavad Gita, it says that Sanchya Atma Vinashyati na lokosti sukham na. So basically, we need to move beyond that initial skepticism. This is only for people who are skeptical. You won't need all the three filters, to be honest. Okay, always. It's only until you reach a point where you say, okay, it just makes sense, okay, because you have experienced a lot of things. It won't. But initially, for people who may be skeptical, or they think, okay, why should I believe? This may help, that this is bona fide knowledge or not. But you don't need it on an ongoing basis, to be honest. It's just like cooked rice thing. You've experienced thing once, and then you are, okay, rest all will make sense. But it is for people, for the beginners who are of very, temperament, that everything needs to be trust but verify and stuff like that. I'm telling you, when people used to listen to Maharaj, they would sit with a copy and a pen, and they would go and cross-reference each scripture that he would quote. That Mundukopanishad, Kathopanishad, this, that, they would cross-verify. But how long you can do that? If it is, you may do it 5 times, 10 times, 15 times. After that, it just makes sense.
And the other thing is, I see 2 Nitinji on my screen right now.
Who?
Yeah, you Sumeshji's backdrop.
Oh, okay. Sumeshi, okay. You're popularizing me somewhere, I guess. I hope for good reasons. Okay.
This is called time travel.
Time travel, huh?
अभी तो आप पहुंचे एक जगह और अभी देखिए धीरे-धीरे आप कहाँ पहुंचेंगे.
Let me show you something else as well. Okay, even before Sam asks me any questions. Sam, you see this on the screen? The photo? Does anybody know the answer to this?
Yes, I know. The one next to one.
Okay, that will be the answer to. Okay, go ahead, Sam. Just put this picture for a reason, okay? But before I answer the question. So go ahead. You can ask the question.
No, actually, my question was the same that Sandhya ji asked, and also I wanted to tell that I also see Nitinji in Sumeshji's background.
Sumesh,
So Sandhya ji said both of them.
I don't know, Sumesh, you're making me famous or infamous because of that, but that's interesting.
Yeah, and this picture I
says
did.
the one with the pointed nose.
I would prefer to see Lord Krishna and horses, so you can take my picture away. That will not cause Samji to have any confusion. But nevertheless, yeah, what is the question? Does anybody have any question?
Nitinji's fans club. This
Keshavji,
photo,
Radhe.
I didn't understand why you placed this.
Radhe.
Radhe Keshavji. Okay, I'll
Yeah,
stop.
I was just listening. I'm happy because today I joined you in the beginning. In the earlier times, I used to jump in later. So the question is not a question like we are listening. Experience is the big thing, and people are here ready to go for experience. So I want to narrate a small story. Like maybe 40, 50, 60 years ago, there was a teacher in the school and inspection was to take place. Inspector came, and the teacher, when he reached to the door, inspector, then teacher started teaching the kids. The English teacher is teaching ABC alphabets in the beginning. So he said, Girl, 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 not girl. Inspector came. Of course, he heard and he was to jump in. He said, why you are teaching GIRL, girl? He said, I have 10 years experience and I'm teaching this class, but no promotion. So if the promotion is not there, so GIRL will be girl and not girl. So inspector replied to him, sir, you have experience of 1 year over a period of 10 years, not 10 years experience. So it is, you know what I mean. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, no, that's very true. It's quality over quantity for sure. Thank you so much. Beautiful. Yes, Preeti, you wanted to say something, then we'll come to Rahul.
Yes. Can we go back to the picture, the alligator and
Okay,
crocodile?
sure. It'll be my extreme pleasure to do so.
Thank you so much. So Nitinji, I have been out of these sessions for a long time. I must say more than a year. But I loved your graphics a lot, and this is what it is. You began your session today. What is science versus spirituality? I would connect this picture to the concept. I mean, both these animals, they do not differ much in their qualities. I mean, one looks like what one is made like God. I mean, what God made them. One is alligator, one is crocodile, but both serve the ecosystem more or less in the same way. Similarly, science and spirituality, as you said, they are two branches, and which do serve their purpose for our existence, for our knowledge, for our understanding. So I would connect this picture to your starting question or the first slide. Radhe Radhe.
No, I think you really thought through it a lot, and that's an interesting take on that. But yeah, very nice, and I'm glad to have you back on the sessions, Preeti. We'd love to hear more from you. We'll continue with this discussion. So thank you so much for that. I think that was pretty profound. Yep. Thank you again. All right. Yes, Urvi, I saw your nephew. I think somebody was on the screen as well. Okay. All right. Yes, Rahul, you want to add something?
Radhe Radhe. So there is a question from a euphoric sadhak. So she says that if a sadhak feels euphoric because of hearing something from Guru, does that also need to be aligned to equanimity? If the answer is yes, what should be the approach? Radhe Radhe.
No, it's good actually to feel spiritual emotions around it, but then we got to control that as well until we become God realized, right? Think of gopis. They were actually having the privilege of doing Maharas with Lord Krishna. And at the same time, they were not even missing a single step or a beat. Okay, that much mindful they were. So it is good to do that, but we still need to be able to tolerate that because we have still not realized the perfect bliss. And in that euphoric state, if we pick up 10 more people and make them dance or trouble them, then it may not be right. So we simply tolerate that, because when we tolerate that, what God gives us is even, see, whenever God asks for a sacrifice, he actually gives us much more. We spoke about that example of a rat who gets enchanted by that rice puff and succumbs to that, right, the rat trap. But if he would have neglected that, he would have gotten access to the entire godown. And something similar to is happening to us as well. This is a better state actually to express or feel than material euphoria. As long as it is not messing up with somebody else, I think it's good to ride that, because it's a good state to be. Not everybody gets to do that, right? As long as it doesn't sidetrack you from your ongoing journey, I think it's good to ride that emotion. It's a spiritual thing. So yes, Shri Ramya, you wanted to ask something as well?
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. That picture of crocodile versus alligator it reminded me of two things. Like initially, when I was just started with spirituality, then everybody said, read Bhagavad Gita, you will get answers for everything what you're looking for. And I just simply read it. I remember installing an app on my phone and sitting in my bus while commuting and reading it. And it was like this, like, like the answer came, but I still don't know which is alligator and which is crocodile, but the answer was given as the one next to alligator is crocodile. Then I realized that, yeah, you need a proper teacher to understand that. So it reminded me of that, like when you either speak from an amateur or you are not in that stage, when the answer comes, this is how it is going to be. The answer is there, but still you don't know the answer.
Yep, that's true. Answers will come. See, it's like when we start seeking answers to spiritual questions, the floodgate opens, because now we are aligning to the purpose of our creation. So we start serving the purpose of this creation, then the universe will open up the floodgates for you. It may come through a friend, it may come through some news channel, it may come through some article that you read, some book, you speak to somebody. It's just like the floodgates just open, and a lot of people can vouch for that. When you start seeking, you will start getting answers. Your video may crop up in your feed that you listen to and you say, wow, this is exactly what I needed to hear today. This is how it works. And everybody would experience it in their lives when they start seeking answers to spiritual or the higher questions that all of us should actually be asking. Right? In Brahma Sutra, the very first thing Vedvyasa wrote is Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Now that you are human, to whom much is given, more is expected. Now inquire about your existence. Who are you? Why are you come here for? Have you come here just to pay EMIs and raise kids and depart from this world one day? Of course not. There's a bigger purpose to it. And then he goes on to say, explain God, that we are going to talk about tomorrow when we talk about Big Bang and other things, that God is the one who created this world. Very clearly in Brahma Sutra is said that, Vedvyas. But yeah, great, Shri Ramya. Thanks for sharing that. Yes, Sandhya, please do fill out the feedback tracker as well. We had a hard stop at 10, so we'll make some announcements after taking a couple of hands. Tanmeji, after Sandhya.
Okay, I'll just say quickly. One was a comment that I really love this analogy of update bro, this image. And second thing was, so there is this materialistic triple filter test by Socrates, right? Which I felt personally, you can just say if I'm thinking it right, which is useful when we are speaking something to someone.
Speaking, yeah.
Right. So filter of truth, filter of goodness, and filter of usefulness.
Usefulness, yes, very true. Before you speak something, these three criteria, and usefulness says that you should speak only if it improves the quality of silence, right? And God has given us one mouth and 2 ears. And the best salesmen in this world are the ones who follow the 43-57 principle. Okay, that is an important thing I read a few days back. Statistically, it is proven people who hear more and understand are better than the people who keep on speaking. So, and then one should speak only if it is truth, it adds value, and it improves the quality of the silence, right? Like you said that, yeah, very true. That is more with regards to when we engage in conversations. See, just by hearing, people have made careers. You look out with these people, Oprah Winfrey, people open up and pour their hearts out to her. Why? Because when she's listening, every pore and fiber of her body is directed towards you. And some great personalities, they have that ability to do that. Simi Grewal used to do that, right? People will come and share the things which nobody would have heard. They just feel comfortable because you get their undivided attention. And I have seen even in corporate, the best leaders are the ones, when they are with you, they are with you. They will give you their complete attention. Even if 10 other things are going on, their house is on fire. Those 10 minutes that they are completely zoned in on you. It is a great ability to have. True. Thanks for bringing that up, Sandhya. Yes, Tanmeji.
Tanmeji?
Radhe Radhe, am I audible?
Yes.
Thank you. So, Nitinji, my question is, just recently you were speaking like the universe speaks up. So you get like it's a transcendental knowledge, so it can be achieved through anywhere, like through television and through. So that caught up my attention. So I just want that I had the similar experience. So I was getting the similar signals, and it saved me some from a very big trouble. So I would say, and it has been kept on repeating. So I just started noticing after Guruji came into my life. So I just want to see, is it true or is it just some kind of I would say daydreaming?
No, it's not daydreaming, it happens. See,
Because
universe,
this
people on
happened.
the path
If
of
I
you would experience that. It happens. See, it's not like the television will make you an expert in spirituality. Okay, you still need a guru for that. However, some of the stuff that you are seeking answers to in some form or manner, it will start coming to you. It happens. It happens in everybody's journey. I'm telling you,
yes,
10
and so
more
what
people can
happens?
share it.
I
Mhm.
just I wake up quite early in the morning, like at the 4:30 a.m. and I kept on just every day I keep just asking to the universe one question. At the end of the day, I'm getting the answer, and I'm so glad that you brought up this point that the similar experience has been being shared by so many people. So this
Yes,
gives
yes,
me a self, I would say, I would say, and another proof. I would say
yes, yes. It is reassuring, right? It is. Now we
yes,
are
yes, yes.
spiritual brethren, so we can
Thank
share.
you so much. That I
Everybody.
was thinking that I am only the crazy person.
No, it's not craziness. This is
Oh,
how it works. And everybody, I'm telling you, would have some story to share. Okay, you can put it in feedback tracker, or maybe we can create a thread around it. Everybody would have
oh,
experienced
definitely.
that. I can
I would
vouch
love
for
it.
it.
I would love to do it today itself. Yeah. Thank you
Sure.
so much.
So Jyoti or somebody can create a thread. Let's write it down. It happens. It has happened to me. It has happened to everybody. I'm very sure about it. Whoever is on the spiritual path, in some form
Thank
or
you
manner,
so much, Nitin.
it has to
Thanks.
happen. Yes. Thank you, Tanmeji. Yes, Sam. Go ahead, please.
Nitinji, do saints also give full attention to the speakers?
Saints are looking at somebody else and gracing somebody else. Okay, that level of attention they give. So you have no clue. Okay.
No, if they give attention to the speakers, the ananyata will break, right? Towards God will break. Or suppose if they see
They
God
can
in
hold
the speaker.
simultaneous things together. Okay, they have their yoga maya yukt. Now you are again going back to the fundamentals. Now, if God is here, he's a charioteer. How is he governing the entire universe? How is he
Yeah.
making another avatar? They
Oh,
can do simultaneous things at the same time. Okay.
does that principle apply to saints also?
Of course, they are Yogamaya Yukt. That God realization, very definition of God realization is you get God's power at that point. They know your past, present, future, everything, okay?
Okay.
And all your sanskars as well. Only when you accept them as a guru, then they will start fighting for you and fighting with your prarabdha, giving you a protection and helping you on the spiritual path. Not until the point you are seeking material things and using guru and God to fulfill your material desires. Not until that point.
Okay, that answered my question.
So they are Yogamaya Yukt. They are still governed by Yogamaya, but they are Yogamaya Yukt at that point. Yes, Champaji, you wanted to share something?
Champaji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Our Swamiji is like that. In a crowd of thousands, everyone we feel that he is looking at us, he is liking us. If there is time, I just want to talk about one small example.
Sure. We have time.
This time when he came to Bangalore, his book was released on the stage, and some of us were called on the stage along with Swamiji. And I have this terrible problem of arthritis. My fingers don't work at all. And that was so beautifully packed by our volunteers. I just couldn't, I don't know. He's watching the audience. He is the center, but he could understand I cannot tear it. He took my book, he tore the cover and gave it back to me to show like this. Only he can do, nobody else, he is the perfect example of knowing all of us what we are, what is going on in our mind. And he makes you feel that you're so special and he loves you, nobody else, like Krishna. That is my experience. Thank you. I don't know whether it's relevant or not.
No, very relevant, Champaji. It always helps to hear these stories to, it's very inspiring, and to know that what gurus are capable of doing actually when we keep on increasing our surrender towards them. The lack or the deficit is more on our sides. When we as we increase it, we can't even imagine the possibilities it will open up for us, right? When Guru's grace starts flowing in. But yes, they can make you feel loved like nobody else can in this material world. That is the capability they have for sure. And that is why a lot of people, they swell with tears when they get closer to them, because they would have never experienced something like that before in their lives. It's just that trace of feeling is good enough to overwhelm us with those emotions. That is how pure it is. And thank you for sharing that, Champaji.
Can I add one more sentence to this?
Sure. We have a little bit of time, please.
And the same thing I feel about Nitinji. When we talk, you feel that he's listening to you, Many times what happens is when we talk, some of the moderators will be doing something else or looking somewhere, and they have indifferent expression on their face, and you don't feel like continuing, And what I say in Nitinji is whatever relevant, irrelevant things we say, he'll listen to us and it gives us encouragement to talk. Thank you.
Nothing. I mean, thank you for that, and keep blessing all of us. But it's always a pleasure to hear. In fact, I derive a lot of inspiration from each one of you. When you share stuff, and I'm like, wow. So I'm glad it's resonating, and I hope it continues. But whenever I hear from you, it's always special. I told you I have a special respect for Kendriya Vidyalaya teachers, and for you I feel especially even more connected, because you've been there right from the beginning. So always a pleasure to hear from you, and thank you for your kind words. Okay, so with that, 2 more minutes, we can make quick announcement.
So as Champaji said, so perfect. But आपने कहा only for teachers. तो हमारा number आएगा या नहीं आएगा?
आप सबका है श्याम भाई. मैं तो, that is a special thing I called out for Champaji, but for each one of you, I derive a lot of inspiration from each one of you.
I know. Thank you so much.
More so now, because you turn on your camera. So whoever does that, thank you from the bottom of my heart. And even though I have to see myself on some of your screensavers, but still you are putting your cameras on, which is a big thing. Now, quick announcements. Please attend daily satsang.
Has a question. Once again, Dyasini is saying, is the word like boomerang? What you give is what you get. And in bhakti, we learn that God graces depends on the level of surrender. Is it correct?
True. Very true. General grace is available to everyone. Special grace is directly proportional to the level of surrender. We want this much grace, we surrender this much. We want this much, surrender this much. This much, surrender this much. So it's all up to us. Simple rule. Okay, so daily satsangs, please attend that. We have it from 7 to 8 every day. And then weekly satsangs, Sundays, please do attend that, because it's a great way to, put it to practice. All the philosophy that we are doing, end of the day, it should translate to love and devotion towards God, and weekly satsang are the best way to do that. Any other key announcements other than that? Because we have a hard stop at 10, and I've seen Sunil ji already.
All good.
Knocking
We
on
have
the door.
yoga teacher training. Yeah. We have the yoga teacher training. Then we have the family camp. Then yoga teacher training starting from March 17th. Then we have family camp starting from 4th July. And then we have the Women's Day celebration. These three main things.
Then we'll have yoga festival. Then we'll have Diwali celebration. Then we'll have a Rudra Abhishek, and then we'll have another holy celebration.
Then I'll come to Dallas. Then I'm there.
Okay, so please fill out the feedback tracker. Radhe Radhe from my side. Sunil ji has already I see him. Yeah. So over to you, Sunil bhai. And
thank you, Nitin bhai. Beautiful.